Imagine you're testing out toys with a client,
Right.
and you've got this whole pile of things in front of them, right?
Yeah.
And they reach for like a bright red fire truck every single time.
Yeah. They just love it.
They completely light up when they see it.
Yeah.
So you pull out your clipboard and you write down, fire truck equals reinforcer, right?
Wrong.
Completely wrong.
Entirely wrong. Reaching for a toy just means they prefer it.
Okay.
It doesn't actually become a reinforcer until it actually changes their behavior.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's the single most common trap in applied behavior analysis.
I can see why.
Oh, for sure. And frankly, it's the one that trips up the most people when they are first getting into this science. We constantly, confuse what a person likes with what actually motivates them to do something difficult.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. This is part of our complete RBT task list series. And today, you and I are going to tear apart task B.1, which is conduct preference assessments.
Yes, a huge topic.
It's huge. And I want to start right there with that fire truck example.
Yeah.
Because it honestly sounds, I don't know, a bit pedantic.
Sure.
Like if a kid chooses the fire truck 10 out of 10 times, if they literally ignore every other toy in the room to get to it, why are we splitting hairs? Why isn't that a reinforcer?
I get that a lot, but it's because in behavior analysis, a reinforcer isn't a thing.
Okay, what is it then?
It's a functional relationship.
A relationship.
Exactly. A preference assessment only identifies, likely or potential reinforcers.
Potential, got it.
Right. Let's look at the behavioral definition of reinforcement. Reinforcement is confirmed only when the consequence produces a measurable increase in the target behavior over time.
Over time, okay.
So yeah, your client chose the fire truck 10 times. That proves they highly prefer it in, a free choice scenario.
Right, when it's easy.
Exactly. But let's say you're trying to teach them to tie their shoes.
Which is hard.
Very hard. It's a highly frustrating, high-effort task for them. So you say, tie your shoe, and you get the fire truck.
Oh.
If they look at you, look at the shoe, and walk away...
Then the fire truck didn't work.
Right. That fire truck did not reinforce the behavior.
Oh, man. Okay, that makes total sense. So preference is just what you like when things are easy. Reinforcement is what you will actually work for when things get hard.
Precisely. The required effort, or what we call a response effort, it changes the equation entirely.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, the preference assessment is really just a scouting mission.
A scouting mission. I like that.
It narrows down the massive universe of available items into a short list. Things we suspect might have enough value to drive behavioral change.
But you still have to test them.
Always. The ultimate test is always the behavior itself.
I look at my own life with this.
Mm-hmm.
My highly preferred stimulus right now is sitting on my couch watching documentaries.
Oh, 100%. Same here.
Right. I prefer that over almost anything else. But if you told me I had to run 10 miles in the rain to earn 1 hour of documentary time...
You're not doing it.
I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. So the documentary is a preference, but the response effort of running 10 miles completely, nullifies its power as a reinforcer for that specific behavior.
That is a perfect translation of the mechanism. The value of a stimulus is fluid.
Fluid, yeah.
And that fluidity is exactly why the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, the BACB, dedicates an entire section of the task list to this.
Because it changes so much.
Exactly. Finding what truly motivates a learner is the absolute foundation of everything else we do in ABA.
Because without it, you have nothing to work with.
Nothing. Think about it from a practical standpoint. The BCBA designs the teaching program, sure, but the RBT is the one on the ground.
Right. They're in the trenches.
They're interacting with the client day in and day out. Supervisors rely completely on you to gather this precise objective data.
Because if I mess up the preference assessment, the BCDA essentially builds a house on a broken foundation.
Exactly. If you conduct the assessment incorrectly, or if you just assume what the client likes based on your own biases...
Yeah. Which happens a lot, I'm sure.
All the time. The BCBA might build an intensive 6-month language acquisition program around a toy that the learner doesn't actually care enough to work for.
And then what happens?
Well, then the learner isn't making progress. The RBT is frustrated because the client is, quote-unquote non-compliant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the BCBA is confused because the data is just flat. And it all traces back to a flawed preference assessment.
It's a massive domino effect.
Massive.
But beyond just, making the BCBA's data look good, what does this actually mean for the client sitting across from you? Why should you, the listener, really care about this on a human level.
That's the most important part. It means the difference between an engaging, supportive learning environment and one that feels like a prison.
A prison, wow, that's a strong word.
But it's true. When we accurately identify what a client loves, we create a context that is genuinely enriching. We are honoring their autonomy.
That's a great way to look at it.
By constantly assessing their preferences, we are basically giving them a voice in their own treatment. We are asking, what brings you joy today?
Which is so respectful.
It is. That is a cornerstone of ethical, compassionate care.
Okay, I want to dig into how we actually figure out what brings them joy. Because the Cooper text, which is basically the holy grail textbook for behavior analysis.
The big white book, yep.
Right, the big heavy one. It has a very dense, very official definition for a stimulus preference assessment.
Let's hear it.
Okay, it says it's a, quote, structured, systematic procedure used to determine the stimuli a person prefers, the relative preference values, the conditions under which those values remain, and their presumed value as reinforcers.
That's a mouthful.
It is a total mouthful. So let's break that down. Why the heavy emphasis on the word systematic?
Because we aren't just taking wild guesses.
Right.
We aren't casually observing a client for 5 minutes and saying, oh, they smelled at the bubbles. Let's use bubbles for the next 6 months.
Which is tempting to do.
Very tempting because it's fast. But systematic means we are following a strict, step-by-step scientific rulebook to test items against each other.
Right, because the definition mentions relative preference values. So we are looking for a hierarchy.
Yes, exactly. We want to know not just what they like, but what is their absolute favorite, what is their second favorite, and just as importantly, what do they actively dislike or just ignore?
Why does that matter so much?
Because if you offer someone their third favorite item to do their hardest task, you are going to see problem behavior.
No, because the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Exactly. The response effort is too high for a mediocre reward.
Okay, so how do we start? If you're an RBT and your supervisor says, hey, we need a new hierarchy of preferences for this client, what's the first tool you pull out of your toolbox?
Well, you usually start with the lowest demand option, which is simply asking.
Just asking them.
Just asking. You can ask the client directly, or you can ask their caregivers. You use open-ended questions, offer a list of choices, or have them rank things.
Wait, okay. If we could just ask them, why does this entire field of complex systematic assessments even exist?
That's the logical next question.
Right, because if a client can talk, and I ask, what do you want to play with? And they say, the iPad. Aren't we done?
You would think so, but human behavior is rarely that straightforward.
Yeah.
The scientific literature constantly warns us about something called poor correspondence.
Poor correspondence. Between what?
Between verbal self-reports and actual subsequent behavior.
Explain that. What does that actually look like?
It means what a person says and what a person does are often two completely different things.
Oh, sure.
Think about it in adults. If I hand you a survey right now and ask you to rank your preferred foods, you might write down grilled chicken, broccoli, and quinoa.
Right, because I want to look good.
Exactly. You have an aspirational view of yourself as a healthy eater. You think you prefer those things.
Right.
But if I actually set up a buffet right now with grilled chicken and a massive chocolate cake, your behavior might completely contradict your verbal report.
I feel personally attacked by that example, but it's incredibly accurate.
We all do it.
Yeah, the social desirability bias just sneaks right in.
Exactly. And with our clients, it can be even more nuanced. Like a child might say they absolutely love watching cartoons.
Okay.
So you write down cartoons as a high preference item, but it turns out watching cartoons only functions as a potential reinforcer on Saturday mornings when they are fully rested.
Oh, I see.
Right. So if you offer cartoons as a reward on Tuesday afternoon when they are hyperactive and really need gross motor movement, the cartoons have zero value.
Because they just need to run around.
Exactly. The context shifts, the motivation shifts, but the verbal report didn't capture that nuance at all.
So asking is a decent starting point to gather materials, like figuring out what to even test, but we can't trust it blindly.
Right. It gives you the ingredients, but not the recipe.
I like that. So we have to observe the actual behavior.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next method, which I think is fascinating. The free operant preference assessment. Yep. I like to picture this as the open buffet or an open gym. You just walk in, there are no rules, and you can engage with whatever you want.
That is a perfect visual. In a free operant assessment, the learner is given free, unrestricted access to a variety of items or activities in an environment.
And the RBT.
The crucial element here is that the RBT does not force any choices.
None.
At all.
None. You don't hand them anything. You don't say, hey, look at this or pick one. You literally just sit back, blend into the wall, and observe.
So what exactly am I writing down on my data sheet while I'm pretending to be a wall?
You are recording duration.
Duration.
Yes. You are tracking the total amount of time the learner engages with each specific item.
Okay, give me an example.
So if they walk over to a bin of Legos and play for 4 minutes, drop them, wander around the room for a minute, and then go back to the Legos for another 3 minutes, you record 7 total minutes of engagement for the Legos.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it. What if I have a client who walks into this open buffet, ignores all of the cool stuff, grabs a piece of string off the floor, and just twirls it in the corner for the entire 20-minute observation period?
Yep, that happens.
Right. They never touched the toys I meticulously set out. Did the assessment fail?
Not at all. No, the assessment worked perfectly.
Even though they just played with string?
Yes, because it gave you highly valid data about their current motivation. If they chose to twirl a string for 20 minutes, then string twirling is their highest preferred activity in that moment.
Huh.
That is the beauty of the free operant method. It is ecologically valid, it mirrors natural play, it doesn't impose our artificial adult expectations of what they should be playing with.
That makes a lot of sense. We always want them to play with the quote-unquote right toys.
Exactly, but that's not our job here. Our job is just to see what they actually want.
So this would be the ideal assessment for a client who maybe has a lot of challenging behavior when you place demands on them. Like, if just saying, sit at the table and choose a toy causes them to escalate, the open buffet is a completely demand-free way to figure out what they care about.
Exactly. It's fantastic for learners who have a limited tolerance for structured tasks. It is also the go-to method for learners who have limited scanning skills.
Scanning skills. Unpack that for a second. What do you mean by that?
Visual scanning. It's the ability to look at an array of 3, 4, or 5 items on a table, visually process all of them, evaluate them mentally, and make a deliberate choice.
Which sounds easy to us, but it's not always.
It's actually a very complex chain of behaviors. For some individuals, especially early learners or those with severe neurological impairments, putting 5 items in front of them is completely overwhelming.
So what do they do instead?
They might just grab whatever is physically closest to their right hand. Yeah, not because it's their favorite, but because it requires the least cognitive and physical effort. The free operant assessment completely removes that cognitive load.
Okay, so the open buffet is low demand, it's highly natural, and it's great for kids who can't handle complex choices. But there has to be a downside.
There is.
Right. Because if it's this peaceful, why don't we just use it all the time?
Because it is notoriously bad at creating a precise hierarchy.
The ranking.
Right. Think back to your string twirling example. If a client twirls a string for 20 minutes, you know they love the string.
Right.
But you learned absolutely nothing about the other 15 toys in the room. You don't know what their second, third, or fourth favorite items are.
And I need those.
You do. As an RBT, you need a deep bench of potential reinforcers. Because if you only have one, the client will satiate on it very quickly.
Satiation, right. If I eat my favorite food every day for a week, by Friday, I'm sick of it. Satiation kills the motivation. So if the open buffet doesn't give us that deep ranked bench, we have to introduce structure. We have to force the issue.
Precisely. And that brings us to trial-based methods.
Okay, let's get into those.
This is where we move from natural observation to highly controlled systematic testing. We present items in distinct trials, and we measure 3 specific reactions.
What are they?
Approach, contact, and engagement.
What's the behavioral difference between approach and contact?
An approach is any detectable movement toward the stimulus. It could be reaching a hand out, leaning their torso forward, or even just a sustained, deliberate eye gaze.
So they don't even have to touch it.
Right, but contact is when they physically touch it. And engagement is sustained interaction. We meticulously track these micro behaviors to calculate preference.
Let's walk through the trial-based menu then.
Yeah.
The simplest one is the single stimulus assessment, sometimes called successive choice. I assume this means I'm just holding up one thing at a time.
Yes, exactly. You present a single item, like you say, here is a light-up ball. You observe. Do they approach it? Do they contact it? Do they engage with it? And for how long?
And
Then you take the ball away, wait a few seconds, and present the next item. Here is a slinky.
That seems almost too basic. Like, it feels like taking a step backward.
How so?
Well, why would I hold up one item at a time when I could just put both the ball and the slinky on the table and see which one they pick?
Remember that standing deficit we just talked about?
Oh, right.
If putting two items on the table causes the client to freeze, or if they have visual impairments, or if they just completely lack the prerequisite skill of choosing between alternatives, single stimulus is your only option.
It isolates the variable.
Exactly. You aren't asking them which one is better. You are just asking, do you want this, yes or no?
I see. It's the most fundamental level of choice. But assuming our client can scan and can make choices, we need a better way to rank these items.
Yes, we do.
And that brings us to the paired stimulus assessment, or forced choice. I love the analogy for this one. This is the March Madness bracket of ABA.
It is exactly like a sports tournament, but with a grueling twist.
A grueling twist, okay.
In a paired stimulus assessment, you put two items in front of the learner. Let's say a puzzle and a toy car. They must choose one.
Okay.
That head-to-head matchup gives you highly accurate data about which of those two items is preferred.
Right. In a basketball tournament, the winner moves on and the loser goes home. But you mentioned a twist. How does this differ from a normal bracket?
In a normal bracket, half the teams are eliminated in the first round.
Right.
But in a paired stimulus assessment, to get a mathematically perfect ranking, every single item must face every other item in the entire pool.
Oh, wow. So it's a round-robin tournament.
Exactly. Let's do the math on this because it gets intense very quickly. Let's say you have a pool of just 6 toys.
Just 6. Okay.
Toy A has to be paired with B, C, D, E, and F. Then toy B has to be paired with C, D, E, and F.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. For just 6 items, you have to run 15 distinct trials. If you have 10 items you want to test,
No, tell me.
you have to run 45 trials.
45 trials, just to figure out what they want to play with.
Yep.
That sounds like a nightmare for the client. Imagine being asked 45 times to pick between 2 things, and every time you pick something, the adult lets you hold it for 10 seconds and then snatches it away to set up the next trial. I'd be furious.
And that is the exact limitation of the paired stimulus method. It yields incredibly accurate, highly reliable data. It will give you a definitive ranking from 1 to 10.
But at what cost?
The behavioral cost is massive, it takes a very long time, and the constant removal of preferred items frequently evokes problem behavior. A client might just start swiping the materials off the table because they are frustrated with the game.
I would too. So the paired stimulus is mathematically brilliant but practically exhausting. We need a middle ground.
We do.
We need something that gives us a clear ranking like the round-robin tournament but doesn't require 45 trials. This is where the multiple stimulus assessments come in.
Yes. Multiple stimulus methods speed up the process dramatically. Instead of showing them 2 items at a time, you present an entire array of items all at once, usually between 3 and 7 items.
Okay, so a lineup.
Right. The client scans the array and chooses one. The critical distinction in these methods is what you do with the array after they make their choice. We have 2 versions, MSW and MSWO.
Okay, let's unpack these acronyms. MSW is multiple stimulus with replacement. So I lay out 5 toys, the kid picks the blue car, I let them play with it. When the trial is over, what happens?
Because it is with replacement, the blue car, the item they just chose, is placed back into the array for the next trial.
Okay.
But the items they did not choose are completely replaced with brand new items.
Wait, hold on. If I put the blue car back on a table and they already showed me they love the blue car, aren't they just going to pick the blue car again?
Yes. That is the fatal flaw of MSW for many learners. If a client has one highly preferred item, they will select it on every single trial.
That makes total sense.
You might run 10 trials, and they pick the blue car 10 times. What did you learn about the other items?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. You don't have a hierarchy. You just have a confirmation that they really like blue cars.
Which means if the blue car breaks, or if they get bored of it 3 days from now, I have zero backup plan because my assessment failed to rank anything else.
Exactly. Which is why the field heavily favors the other variation, MSWO. Multiple stimulus without replacement. This is arguably the most important assessment to understand deeply.
I call this one the dodgeball draft.
I love this analogy.
Think back to middle school gym class. You've got 10 kids lined up against the wall. 2 captains are picking teams. The first captain picks the tallest, most athletic kid. What happens to that kid? He steps off the wall.
Right, he's on the team.
He is removed from the available options. The next captain cannot pick him again. They are forced to look at the remaining kids and pick the next best option. You keep picking until the last kid is chosen. The order in which those kids were picked is a flawless, undeniable hierarchy of perceived dodgeball skill.
It perfectly illustrates the mechanics of MSWO. You present an array of 5 toys. The learner chooses their favorite, the blue car. They play with it.
And that?
Then you take the blue part back, but you do not put it back in the array. It is permanently removed from the draft.
Okay.
You take the remaining 4 items, physically rearrange them on the table so they aren't in the exact same spots, and you say choose one. Now, they are forced to show you their second favorite item.
Because their first choice is off the board. It's brilliant. It completely solves the satiation problem we had with MSW. They can't just fixate on the blue car.
Exactly. It creates a complete ranked hierarchy in a fraction of the time it would take to run a paired stimulus round robin. You get a definitive first, second, third, fourth, and fifth choice in just 5 trials.
Wow, 5 trials versus 45.
Right. It's efficient, it's accurate, and it's heavily utilized in the field.
Okay, I want to pull all of this out of the textbook and put it into real life.
Yeah.
Because as an RBT, you aren't working in a sterile laboratory. You are in living rooms, classrooms, and chaotic clinics.
Very chaotic sometimes.
Right. Let's talk about how these actually look in practice. Imagine you're an RBT running a clinic session. You got 2 hours of intensive, discrete trial teaching ahead of you at the table. How do you use these assessments?
In a clinic where the environment is highly controlled, you might run a rapid MSWO right at the table before you even start teaching.
It's right there.
Yep. You line up 5 standard clinic toys, a light-up spinner, a squishy ball, a slinky, a pop-it, and a puzzle. You run the MSWO. It takes maybe 3 minutes.
Super fast.
You immediately know that today, right now, the light-up spinner is ranked number 1 and the slinky is number 2. You set the spinner aside, you start your teaching trials, and you use that spinner as the consequence. It's fast, structured, and sets you up for immediate success.
That sounds great for a 6-year-old at a clinic table.
Hmm.
But what if you were working in early intervention? You walk into a family's home, and your client is an 18-month-old toddler.
Totally different ball game.
Yeah. You cannot make a toddler sit at a table and run a structured dodgeball draft with 5 toys. They will just throw them at you.
Right. The methodology has to match the developmental level and the environment. In that home scenario, you would lean on a contrived, free operant assessment. The Cooper text describes this as salting the environment.
Salting the environment. It sounds like you're setting a friendly trap.
In a way you are. You walk into the toddler's playroom. It's already full of their regular toys. But you, the RBT, strategically place a few novel, highly engaging items around the room.
Yeah.
You put a musical cause and effect toy on the rug. You place some textured sensory blocks on a low shelf. You are salting the room with potential reinforcers.
And then you just watch.
Then you just sit back and watch. You track how much time the toddler naturally gravitates toward your new items versus their old ones. You place absolutely 0 demands on the child, which is crucial for building rapport with an early learner, while still gathering highly valid data on what captures their attention.
Now, I want to bring up something that is incredibly important, not just for the exam, but for being a decent human being working in this field. Cultural responsiveness.
Crucial. Absolutely crucial.
You mentioned earlier that the open buffet is great because it doesn't impose artificial adult expectations, but we also have to talk about cultural expectations.
We do. The ethics code mandates that we provide services that are culturally responsive, and this directly applies to the materials we use in preference assessments.
Let me throw a scenario at you. You are an RBT in a large clinic. The clinic has a standard preference assessment box.
I've seen those.
Right. It's got goldfish crackers, a plastic dinosaur, a toy car, and some M&S. Every single new client who walks through the door gets evaluated using this exact same box.
Okay.
Now, you are assigned a new learner whose family recently immigrated to the country. They observe distinct dietary customs, and culturally, their play is highly social and involves natural materials like wood and fabric, not independent play with plastic toys.
Right.
But the RBT thinks, I need to use the standard clinic box so my data is uniform and reliable compared to the other kids. What happens next?
The assessment completely fails. And it fails because the RBT fundamentally misunderstood the difference between reliability and validity.
Break that down. Why is that box invalid?
Validity means your test is actually measuring what it claims to measure. If you put a plastic dinosaur and M&Ms in front of a child who has never been exposed to them or whose cultural background emphasizes completely different modes of interaction, they might just stare at you.
They wouldn't know what to do.
Right, they might not engage with anything. So the RBT writes down on their clipboard, client has no strong preferences, client is unmotivated.
Which is tragic.
It is a catastrophic misinterpretation of the data. The client isn't unmotivated. The environment you constructed artificially limited their ability to show you their preferences.
It's like trying to assess my driving skills, but putting me in a manual transmission car when I've only ever driven automatics.
Yeah.
You could conclude, I don't know how to drive, but really you just gave me the wrong tools.
Exactly. To be culturally responsive, the BCBA and the RBT must integrate relevant cultural variables into the assessment.
How do you do that practically?
Before you even run the assessment, you interview the caregivers. You ask, what does play look like in your home? What textures do they like? What foods are appropriate?
You gather the right ingredients.
Exactly. If their culture emphasizes cooperative games, you shouldn't be running an MSWO with independent plastic toys. You need to assess their preference for social interaction, for specific songs, or for culturally relevant materials. If you default to a standardized, rigid array, you will miss the most potent reinforcers available to that learner.
I love that. You cannot standardize joy. You have to meet the client where they are in the context of their own life.
Beautifully said.
Let's pivot to where things go wrong mechanically. We've talked about the theory. Let's talk about the friction. What are the most common mistakes RBTs make when running these assessments?
The single biggest procedural mistake is prompting.
Oh, I can totally see why. As an RBT, 90% of your day is spent prompting clients. Touch the red card. Good job. Say apple.
Right.
You are constantly scaffolding their behavior to help them get the right answer. It's pure muscle memory.
It is muscle memory, but during a preference assessment, it completely destroys the integrity of the data.
Also,
Imagine you are running an MSWO. You lay out the 5 items. You say, choose one. The client hesitates. They look around. Because of your muscle memory, you subtly tap the table right next to the slinky. Or you point to it. Or you say, look at the slinky. Remember how fun that was yesterday?
and the kid reaches for the slinky.
Right, but what did you just measure? Did you measure their independent preference for the slinky? Or did you measure their compliance with your prompt?
You measured compliance.
Exactly. The assessment is ruined. During a preference assessment, we are not teaching. We are strictly testing. Your delivery must be completely neutral. Your face, your voice, your body language must give 0 clues as to what you want them to pick.
That actually requires a lot of self-discipline. You have to actively fight the urge to help them.
You really do.
This transitions us perfectly into our ethics minute. Because making a mistake with a prompt is one thing, but there are ethical pitfalls in Domain B that are far more serious.
Let's clearly define the RBT's scope of practice first. According to the BACB, an RBT implements preference assessments as directed by the BCBA.
Implements.
Yes, they assist, they follow the protocol, present the materials, and objectively record the responses.
So where is the line? What crosses the boundary?
An RBT never designs the assessment independently. You don't interpret the raw data to make sweeping clinical changes to a behavior plan. And you certainly do not modify the procedure midstream based on your own judgment without consulting your supervisor.
Give me an example of modifying it midstream.
If the BCBA writes a protocol for a paired stimulus assessment with 8 specific items, and halfway through you decide, man, this is taking way too long, I'm just going to let them play for 5 minutes and call it a free operant.
You can't just switch gears.
No, you have violated your scope of practice. You invalidated the specific data the BCBA needed.
Okay, here's a much darker scenario. This is a classic ethics trap. Let's say you were running that long paired stimulus round robin. It's 45 trials. You're on trial 40.
Almost done.
Right. The client engages in a brief tantrum, you get distracted, you manage the behavior, and when you sit back down, you realize you forgot to record the data for trials 38, 39, and 40. Your data sheet has a hole in it. You think, well, I'm pretty sure he picked the iPad twice and the blocks once. I'll just estimate it and fill in the boxes so my BCBA sees a completed sheet. Who does that hurt?
It hurts everyone, and the BACB stance on this is uncompromising. Altering, omitting, backfilling, or estimating data, regardless of your intent, is data fraud.
Data fraud.
It is a severe violation of the ethics code.
Even if I'm 99% sure I remembered it right. Some people might argue, look, it's 3 trials out of 45. It won't shift the overall hierarchy. What's the big deal?
The big deal is that the entire science of behavior analysis rests on the foundation of objective, reliable measurement. If we cannot trust the data, the science collapses.
Right.
If you fake those 3 trials, the BCBA looks at the sheet and assumes it is reality. They might make a clinical decision, altering a reinforcement schedule, introducing a new intervention based on a fiction, and it goes beyond clinical errors. This is healthcare. Falsifying a medical record, which is what your data sheet is, can constitute insurance fraud. It is never, under any circumstances, acceptable.
So what is the correct action? You have 3 empty boxes. What do you do?
Honesty is the only ethical option. You draw a line through those boxes and you write a note. Data not collected for trials 38 through 40 due to managing problem behavior?
Simple as that.
Simple as that. The BCBA will respect your honesty and adjust their analysis accordingly. You must always record data immediately, concurrently, and precisely as observed.
There is one more ethical landmine I want to discuss regarding preferences, and it ties back to client dignity. Once you do all this hard work, once you find the absolute holy grail reinforcer for a client, let's say it's an incredibly rare comic book, how you wield that item matters.
This is vital. Identified preferred stimuli must never be used punitively. You cannot weaponize a client's joy against them.
Give me an example of what that looks like in practice.
Let's say, the client's absolute favorite thing is an hour of dedicated painting time. They had a tough day. They engaged in some non-compliant behavior. Maybe they ripped up a worksheet. An RBT cannot unilaterally say, well, you ripped the paper, so I'm canceling your painting time for the rest of the week.
Oh, that's awful.
You cannot withhold a highly preferred item to punish a behavior unless that specific consequence, usually called a response cost, is formally written into a consent-driven behavior plan by the BCBA and approved by the family.
Because if you just arbitrarily take away the things they love to punish them, you are creating a hostile, coercive environment. You are violating their dignity. We assess preferences to build them up, to reinforce new skills, not to hold their happiness hostage.
Precisely. It all comes back to compassionate care.
This has been a massive exploration. We've covered the definitions, the open buffet, the dodgeball drafts, the round robins, the cultural implications, and the ethical landmines.
A lot of ground.
But I want to make sure you, the listener, are ready for the practical application of this. When your BCBA comes in to supervise you, maybe for your annual competency assessment, they're going to watch you conduct one of these. What are they actually looking for?
They are looking for procedural fidelity.
Meaning?
That means they're watching to see if you adhere strictly to the steps. If it's an MSWO, they're watching your hands. Do you actually remove the chosen item from the table, or do you forget and leave it there?
Right.
They're looking at your delivery. Is your face neutral? Are you accidentally prompting by leaning toward the correct item? And they are watching your clipboard. Are you recording the data in real time, or are you waiting until the end of the session to guess what happened?
Procedural fidelity, neutral delivery, real-time data. Okay, let's put you, the listener, in the hot seat. I'm going to present 5 scenarios. These are the kinds of complex, nuanced situations you will face in the field and on your certification exam. Let's see how we navigate them based on everything we've unpacked today.
Let's do it.
Scenario 1. You are observing a client. Every time you bring out a bin of sensory toys, the client immediately reaches for the spinning top. They spin it, they laugh, they love it. But later, you tell the client to complete a math worksheet, and you offer the spinning top as a reward. The client throws the math worksheet on the floor. What is the status of the spinning top?
The spinning top is a highly preferred stimulus, but it is not a reinforcer for the behavior of completing math worksheets. Remember the golden rule. Preference does not equal reinforcement. Reaching for the top just proves preference. A reinforcer is defined strictly by its functional effect on behavior. Because the math worksheet behavior did not increase, the top failed the test of reinforcement in that specific context.
Perfect. Scenario 2. Your BCBA hands you a list of 12 distinct items and asks you to figure out the client's preferences. The BCBA specifically instructs you to use a multiple stimulus without replacement, the MSWO. Why did the BCBA choose the dodgeball draft instead of just showing the client 2 items at a time?
The BCBA chose MSWO because of mathematical efficiency. If you have 12 items, running a paired stimulus round robin would require dozens and dozens of trials, likely causing the client to escalate. The MSWO efficiently creates a full ranked hierarchy by removing the selected item on each trial. It forces the learner to reveal their second, third, and fourth choices quickly, eliminating the satiation issue without the grueling time commitment of paired choices.
Okay, scenario 3. You work in a clinic. You are preparing to assess a new learner. This learner's family has distinct cultural customs regarding play. They focus heavily on cooperative storytelling and do not use electronic toys. A veteran RBT at the clinic hands you an iPad and a box of standard plastic cause and effect toys and says, just use these. It's what we use for everyone to make sure the data is consistent. What is the problem with this advice?
The problem is that standardized materials often yield invalid data when applied outside their cultural context. You must include items and activities that are meaningful within the family's culture to ensure the assessment is actually measuring preference. If you use the standard iPad and the client ignores it, you haven't proven they lack motivation. You've only proven they don't care about your specific, culturally irrelevant materials. Cultural responsiveness always overrides rigid standardization.
Scenario 4. You are assigned to a new learner. You try to run a simple choice assessment. You put 2 toys on the table. The moment you place the second toy down, the learner begins to cry, cover their eyes, and swipe at the table. However, during breaks, when left alone in the playroom, the learner happily wanders around and interacts with various items for long periods. Which preference assessment is best for this specific learner?
The free operant assessment is the best choice here. The data shows that the learner become highly distressed by the cognitive demand of scanning and making structured choices. The free operant, the open buffet, is naturalistic, imposes absolutely zero demands, doesn't require visual scanning of an array, and measures engagement duration safely. It respects the learner's current tolerance levels while still gathering crucial data.
Final scenario. This is an ethics check. You are running an assessment. The actual count of a specific target behavior during your observation was 6 out of 10. You look at the data, you know the client was having a slightly off day, and on 3 of the missed trials, they were so close to getting it right. You want the client's progress graph to look positive, so you write down 9 out of 10 on your permanent data sheet. What have you just done?
You have committed data fraud. It is a severe ethics violation. You cannot rationalize it by saying they almost got it or that you had good intentions for their graph. Altering data to make it look better is a direct violation of the RBT ethics code regarding honest, accurate, and real-time representation of data. You record exactly what happened, nothing more, nothing less.
Those scenarios really clarify how theory meets reality. Let's start locking this all into memory. You're going to need a way to recall the differences between these assessments instantly. Let's review the memory hacks we built today.
Visual analogies are the strongest way to anchor these concepts.
First, the free operant. Whenever you see those words, visualize the open buffet. You just watch what they eat. You don't ask them to choose. You don't take their plate away. You just measure how long they stand at the carving station.
Second, the paired stimulus. Visualize the March Madness bracket. It is a grueling, mathematically precise series of one-on-one matchups. It will perfectly identify the ultimate champion, but it takes a very long time to play all the games, and the players might get frustrated.
Third, MSWO. Multiple stimulus without replacement. Visualize the dodgeball draft. You pick from a group, the chosen kid leaves the lineup, and the captain is forced to pick the next best person. You are left with a fast, perfect ranking from first pick to last pick.
These visual anchors will guide you through almost any practical or theoretical question on this topic. Let's do a rapid review of the 5 key takeaways from our discussion today. Number 1, the golden rule. Preference does not equal reinforcement. A preference assessment only identifies potential reinforcers. Reinforcement is confirmed only when the item increases the future frequency of a behavior.
Number 2, the free operant assessment is your best tool for low-demand, naturalistic observation, especially for learners who lack scanning skills or who escalate when presented with structured choices.
Number 3, trial-based assessments, single, paired, MSW, and MSWO provide clearer ranked hierarchies. Among them, MSWO is generally the most efficient and effective tool for ranking multiple items without causing satiation.
Number 4, assessments must be culturally responsive to be valid. You cannot force a standardized clinic box onto a diverse population and expect accurate data. You have to integrate the client's actual life and cultural values into the testing materials.
And number 5, RBTs operate strictly under the BCBA's design. You implement precisely, you maintain a neutral, prompt-free delivery, and you never falsify, estimate, or alter data, regardless of your intentions.
We have dissected every angle of domain B.1 today. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. We spend so much time in this field rigorously analyzing what a client chooses. We meticulously record the data, we build the hierarchies, and we design the programs. But we often forget to analyze the context of the choice itself.
That is a profound point. The next time you offer a client a choice and they pick something, ask yourself, are they choosing this because it is truly their favorite thing in the world? Or are they just choosing it because it's the best of what happens to be in front of them right now?
The environment limits the preference. If we only offer them limited, boring, or culturally irrelevant options, we are artificially restricting their ability to show us what truly motivates them. We might think a client has low motivation, when in reality, we just haven't been creative enough to find the key that unlocks their joy. Our job isn't just to be human clipboards measuring choices. Our job is to curate an environment rich enough, diverse enough, and respectful enough to allow their true preferences to emerge.
If you approach preference assessments with that mindset, you aren't just taking data, you are actively improving their quality of life.
The environment limits the preference. Keep that in your mind the next time you set up your materials. Thank you for spending this time with us on this deep dive. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe to the show, come back for the next deep dive in our RBT Task List series, and check out Amethyst Therapy Services for more resources. Keep observing, keep questioning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.